Oh, remember that song from the 90s, right? Enter Sandman. Enter Sandman from Metallica. We remember that song, and we just had Sandman's attorney on. That was a very interesting interview. If you missed it, check it out on Twitter at The Vegas Take, on our SoundCloud page, our YouTube page. We're all over the place. But the guy joining us on the line right now, we haven't had him on in a few weeks. He's a very busy guy. That would be Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports. Mike, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
What's up, fellas? I'm doing great. How are you?
Maybe, I guess, doing better than John Bayline. I mean, the Cavaliers coach.
By the way, Happy New Year, Mike.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, guys.
We're all a year. We've made it into 2020. It's incredible.
2020. I can't believe it.
I know. I'm getting old. But anyway, let's talk a little about John Bayline, Cavaliers head coach. He called his players thugs. Can you tell me a little bit about this? Because that has some racial connotations, I guess you could say, when you call an African-American a thug. Probably not the best way to get your players to have a good relationship with you. Talk to me a little bit about this.
Right. So he said this during a film session and was actually trying to compliment them, although it obviously didn't turn out to be much of a compliment, and he's caught a whole bunch of heat from it. But he said that they was praising them, that you guys stopped playing like a bunch of thugs. And like you said, there's a lot of connotations that, when you use that word, particularly when you have a good deal of African-American guys on the team. So this got out publicly, and John Bayline has been forced to apologize. Now, it was an apology / an explanation, and what he said was that he didn't intend to use the word thug.
Yeah, he spun it.
Just slipped out, right? He tried to use the word, you stop playing like a bunch of slugs.
Right. Very, very, very slick, Mr. Bayline. I actually have an issue with this. What if the players were Caucasian on that team and he called them thugs? Would it be as big of an issue? The answer is no.
Right. No, I would tend to agree.
Yeah, and anyone of any race can be a thug. It has nothing to do with being African American.
Right. And then the issues with the explanation that he's a sharp guy, and it seems strange to me, and a little bit of a stretch that he would have made that mistake. It seems like he was catching hell, and he tried to come up with an explanation that would explain away why he said what he said. But he got into some trouble. He had to apologize to the team yesterday. It seems like the players have forgiven him. The organization, they've decided to stick with him here, so he's going to remain the coach, but, clearly in some hot water.
And arguably the player who's been the biggest thug has been Kevin Love, who was definitely Caucasian, so I don't understand.
They have not gotten along. I read about that. They have not seen eye to eye. They're 10-27. They're having an awful year again, so things are not great right now.
Right.
Yeah, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but John Bayline's been a guy who's been a coach for a lot of years. He's coached a lot of African-American basketball players, and so I think it's a bit of a stretch to characterize this guy as racist, given, his track record throughout the years as a guy who's been a leader of men.
Sure, been a coach for a long time. I remember Bayline going back to his days at West Virginia. Also, I see him coach a lot. He was thought of back then as one of the best college coaches in the country. But I understand what you're saying. I don't even know if people are accusing the coach of being racist. I think it's more that he was insensitive and he just used a word that he probably shouldn't have used. But I don't know if anyone's calling him racist. Like you said, he's been around this game for a long time, and I think he's got a relatively good reputation.
So a Celtics super fan was arrested for throwing a drink at the Garden?
Yeah, so Spurs and Celtics last night, Kemba Walker's back, and so Kemba Walker has a screen set on him by LaMarcus Aldridge. Kemba goes down. There's no foul called. Kemba gets really upset. Is demonstrative with the official. He gets teed up. He gets tossed out of the game, and a fan actually threw a whole can of hard seltzer onto the court. Flew over. Hard seltzer, go figure. It flew and it nearly hit the Spurs bench, and it ended up, hitting the floor and kind of exploding on the floor. The security was able to find this guy, and they handed him over to police. And now this guy has been charged with a misdemeanor crime, and if he ends up being convicted, he is facing up to a month in jail. we know how these things go. People usually don't end up, doing, the full jail time for something like this. But, the guy is in some trouble here. There's no determination yet as to if this guy is going to be banned from the Garden or not, but I would imagine that would happen for at least some period of time. But, he got upset. Kemba was upset, and the fan got upset also. But you can't throw stuff on the court, especially something that's somewhat heavy and made of like aluminum. You don't want to hurt somebody.
Right, exactly. Those White Claws need to just stay in your hands.
And they're expensive too.
Yeah, they are.
Like $10. Keep it.
Very pricey.
So, Mike, we're always fascinated by the relationship with entertainers and other sports stars. And, of course, Mike Tyson, there was nobody bigger in sports back in the day with him as a boxer. And, of course, Michael Jackson, one of the more polarizing figures, I guess you could say, in the entertainment business. Well, Mike Tyson pontificated on his relationship with Michael Jackson and said that, look, he hated the guy for years. He was calling him names like cold mother, you know what, and did not have a lot of glowing things to say about Michael Jackson. Well, apparently once he got to know the singer, his tune has changed a little bit when Mike Tyson thinks about Michael Jackson.
We have Michael. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Babcock.
Yes.
That was really good, Brian. Thank you. I needed that.
Impersonations.
Very interesting. It all started in 1986.
Yep.
Mike Tyson just became heavyweight champion of the world. Superstar, burst onto the scene. Everybody knows who Mike Tyson is back then, right? Well, apparently Michael Jackson didn't, and Mike Tyson and Jackson, they met each other, and Mike Tyson felt like he was kind of snubbed by Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson acted like he didn't know who Mike Tyson was, and because of that, Tyson resented Michael Jackson for years, wanted nothing to do with him. Like you said, had some really not nice things to say about Michael Jackson and just wanted nothing to do with him. Then there was a party a few years later, and somebody came up to Mike Tyson and said, listen, Michael Jackson really wants you at this party. And, Mike said some not nice things about Michael Jackson, and this guy said to Tyson, no, he asked for you specifically. He really wants you to go. So Mike, I guess he sucked up his pride. He went to this party and ended up really becoming close to Michael Jackson, and so much so that they became good friends. And Tyson gave a little bit of insight onto the way Jackson actually was. He said, that like feeble, Peter Pan personality that most people think of as the way Michael Jackson was. That's not him at all. He says that he was actually like someone who would seduce women, who kind of was just like a bad dude with some attitude. And that's not the way we think of Michael. We think of Michael Jackson as a childlike, and Mike Tyson says, no, that's not the case at all. So it's actually funny that Tyson says that Jackson was giving him pointers on how to pick up women. And I know there are so many jokes that could be made here with these two, but
it's not enough. It's literally not enough.
Tyson, he actually got women like seduction advice from Michael Jackson, which is kind of strange.
So it sounds to me like Michael Jackson is a sociopath who was putting on a specific front for the media for a long time and doing something behind the scenes. I have a question for you.
Yeah, he
personally.
was doing something behind the scenes, like taking showers with little boys.
Yeah, exactly.
He was doing that.
I have a question for you, Mike. Where do you think that Tom Brady ends up finishing his career?
I mean, I feel like he's likely going to be back with the Patriots. That's what my gut tells me. I think it's clear that he's not retiring. He put out that statement yesterday. As much said that I'm not done. But I still think that he'll be back with the Patriots. I know T.O. I don't know if you guys heard this. T.O. said yesterday that he wants the Cowboys to sign Tom Brady. He thinks that the Cowboys would be a good spot for him. But at this point, when I watch Tom Brady, I see a guy who's an average quarterback. So for the Cowboys, it doesn't make sense.
I'll tell you, I watched that playoff game, and he threw a couple of balls about 65 yards. I mean, he still has a giant arm.
Yeah.
Mike, I think he ends up a Los Angeles Charger. They've got a good team. His family's from California. Rivers is gone. I think he could do well. They can maybe pick up one of those Patriot disciple coaches instead of Anthony Lynn.
I think so, too, and I think it's attractive for Tom Brady to be in Los Angeles. I think that there's a good chance that when he is finally done, that he winds up living in L.A., a lot of opportunities for him and his wife here. So I think that's probably something that would be attractive to him. And you've heard other things floated about in the past that if he were to sign with the Chargers, that there might be an opportunity to have a small stake in the team. I think that's something that would also be attractive to him. So, yeah, I think a team like the Chargers is much more realistic than any place else, like the Cowboys, for instance.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I still do believe that Patriots most likely, but I do think the Chargers is a great option, if not in New England.
I agree. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's staying put where he is. I know you're staying put where you are as well, as far as I know. Mr. Babcock has some job security. No, all seriousness,
so.
you do. All seriousness, you are a superstar over there at TMZ, Mike, and we always appreciate it when you take some time to join us, my man. Have a fantastic weekend, Mr. Babcock. We will catch up with you next week, my friend. Thanks so much.
Cool. Thanks, guys. We'll talk then.
All
Thanks,
right.
Mike.
Thanks a lot, Mikey.
I want to. It's so weird to switch topics so quickly when we're talking about pop culture and sports, and then go to a crash that kills 176 people. But there is some breaking news, and I talked about it at the top of the hour. That it was very suspicious, and I believe that the Iranians either did it on purpose or accidental. I did say that at the top of the show. Well, it turns out I'm right, because we are learning breaking news now, according to Fox News, that the jet crash that killed 176 people was caused by an errant Iranian missile amid the attack on the U.S. military. You want to talk about bad luck. You're up in the air on an airplane, and it just so happens when you're in the air, there are attacks on our military, and an errant missile hits your jet. The only positive out of this, and I mean the only positive, is that it happened quickly, and I think we all could make the assumption that these people died instantly, and that hopefully they didn't suffer. But the Iranians were responsible for this. You can say it was accidental, but they still killed 176 people.
And this wasn't a military Ukrainian plane, correct? This was a civilian?
This was a civilian airliner.
These are 100%. 176 civilians. And do you know where the plane was going?
I don't know that, but we will certainly continue this conversation tomorrow and try to get some more details on it. I also feel...
Talk about a lawsuit. I mean, that sounds like the biggest lawsuit.
I don't think you're going to be able to sue.
Years.
Something tells me
government?
tells me you're not going to be able to get into a courtroom and sue the Iranian government.
Very interesting to see how Trudeau handles this.
Well, it's not going to happen. I mean, you're not going to be able to sue the Iranian government. It's just not going to happen. It's not the way they do things there. If something like that, God forbid, ever happened in this country, absolutely, but it's not going to happen in Iran. No wonder why they didn't want an investigation. Well, I'm really glad that the information came out anyway. And by the way, we know that this was a missile now. Who's to say they didn't do it on purpose? They're saying it was accidental now? Well, we don't know that.
It was a Ukrainian airline, right?
Yes.
And there were Canadian citizens on the plane, along with a number of other citizens.
I think the way that you'll have to figure out if it's done on purpose is the trajectory of that particular missile compared to the other missiles.
Here's what we know for sure, okay? This was not a mechanical failure that many the Iranians were saying from the beginning, moments literally after this crash. They said it was a mechanical failure. Well, obviously that was a lie, and 176 people, innocent people, lost their lives for what? Because of these incompetent terrorists in Iran? That's why. And it is horrible, and I feel terrible for all those people, their loved ones, and their friends, and we will continue to cover this story. All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, tough transition here when we go from a plane crash to Larry David. But Curb Your Enthusiasm, one of my favorite shows on television, they're coming out with a new season, and Larry David has made the rounds on some sports stations. He's talking about the New York Rangers, and then he's talking about Lamar Jackson. It is absolutely hilarious when you hear Larry David talk sports.